I hate when stories start off with, once upon a time. It sounds mundane and trivial and frankly made up. So let me tell you about this one time on Christmas Eve when Santa himself was resurrected by the devil. It was a cold and blustery day down below. So windy in fact that my Aunt Lucy had decided to vacation in Barbados and let her nephew Wormwood handle the soul reckoning that day. Now she's done that before, no big deal. Wormwood can handle a few souls heading to purgatory or send them off to be ripped to shreds by Cerberus. He may have screws for brains, but he's a good pencil pusher. What made this a little different is that Christmas Eve was when all the souls that weren't properly accounted for from the previous year come up for grabs. Basically, Wormwood's job is to make sure that none of these dead people got sent here by accident, and then to feed the rest of the souls to the hungry demons that Lucy hardly pays attention to. It's a demon eat demon place down there. Wormwood was doing his job, rallying up numbers and getting the souls sorted when he came across one unanticipated snag. The soul that came up to be processed was that of an ethereal being. Let me pause and explain that. No, never mind, that will probably take too long. No, hang on, I probably should. Santa Claus, as I'm sure most of you already know, doesn't really exist, except for that wiggle room where he does exist, thanks to all the people in the world that keep insisting that he's a real deal thing. So because of that, the combined belief of the children in the world makes Santa a real thing, an immortal being that will be around till the end of time. There's just one snag about that. I killed Santa last year. It was kinda cool. You should hear that story from me if you haven't already, because the finer details make it extra cool. It goes a little bit like this. Previously on Fain the Fae Killer, King Extraordinaire, our hero was given a dangerous life-threatening assignment by Claus himself, and had to venture into the human world to find and capture one human child. After several harrowing adventures and an encounter with one extra feisty and dangerous child, Fain decided to take back the North Pole and use several city-leveling bombs to pulverize Santa into oblivion, saving both Christmas and the known universe. And that's exactly what happened, minus a few details that really aren't relevant. Except maybe that part where I lost all my magical powers and wound up as the guardian of that human kid. More on that later, let's go back to hell. Wormwood saw the ethereal soul of Santa Claus working its way through the grinder and immediately thought, gee, this must be a mistake. It was the first thought that he had had in almost 4,000 years, so I guess you can't blame him for not being a good one. He immediately shut down the machine and went to rescue the fat soul. What followed next, I can only give you secondhand information because I wasn't there to witness it. I haven't been to hell in a couple of years, but it wasn't pretty. Santa's ethereal soul rumbled and fidgeted and began to act sporadically, like a vomit bag that was gonna explode. His angry spirit went everywhere, grabbing up dead bodies and reaching critical mass in mere seconds. And any demon that was unfortunate enough to be in the middle of that got roasted and toasted, with blood dripping from his fresh red coat. The jolly old elf was back in the land of the living, laughing like a madman and towering over Wormwood with the hate of 1,000 years. But his hate wasn't directed toward Wormwood. In fact, he rewarded the idiot demon with a toy and asked for directions to the nearest elevator to the surface world. No, Santa had thoughts of revenge toward only one person in the entire world. You guessed it, yours truly. Meanwhile, still on Christmas Eve, I was finishing my shift as a mall security guard when my human child that I had adopted texted me. Since that's a mouthful to say every time, we'll simply call her Isabella. I was actually in the middle of buying her a last-minute Christmas gift at the local Hot Topic when she asked me what we were doing for dinner. Or in her words, "Yo, are we eating leftover pizza again or what? I'm starving." As you can see, I raised her right ever since she ran away from home a few years ago. Since it was Christmas Eve, I knew that most of the mall food court would already be closed except for the food truck run by Jehovah's Witnesses because they didn't celebrate. While I'm usually against fundamentalist Christian high control groups, this couple makes the finest deli sandwiches on earth. Matt, the husband, was swiping through Instagram when I arrived and put in my usual order. 1 6-inch roast beef with some light ranch and yellow peppers and red onions. Light cheese because for some reason when I turned human, I also became lactose intolerant. Go figure. His wife Jessica started making the sandwich when behind us I felt the cold winds of the poles themselves begin to push their way through the food court. Honestly, I didn't think much of it at first. The place gets chillier than it should this time of year, and I've complained to management about it tons of times. Frank, they say using my human name, your resume claims that you lived in the coldest place on earth, and you're telling me that you can't handle 70 degrees on a Friday. It would be too difficult explaining that when I lived in the North Pole that I had magic powers, and honestly, I didn't like the cold that much back then either. So there I was, feeling this strong cold north wind when I heard Mark scream like a little girl, and I turned to see a massive hell portal opening up right next to the Baskin-Robbins. It looked like one of those things from Minecraft, except instead of a piglin hopping out, I was shocked to see none other than jolly old St. Nick. Except he wasn't jolly or old. More like pissed off, surprisingly not dead St. Nick. But that's a mouthful to say, and I already had a bite of sandwich in my mouth when he dropped his magical bag of toys on the tile floor next to the ice cream stand. Santa Claus? I said, completely shocked to see that he was somehow here and not way down in hell, tormenting for all eternity. There's no way that Santa isn't real. Jessica commented, crossing her arms skeptically. The Santa gave a belly laugh that shook the entire mall. Oh, I'm not real, am I? Well, how do you explain this? He shouted as he opened his bag and an army of zombie toy soldiers lined up to block my way. Jessica didn't seem impressed. I think you're a very troubled man that needs some good news. Here, let me share with you a link to our website. Santa and I traded looks and I gave him a nod. Then he mystically created a long sword and shoved it straight up her nostrils. Matt was still cowering behind the counter trying not to piss his pants as Jessica bled out like a stuck pig. I'm pretty real now, aren't I? Santa laughed. Sorry mate, I just didn't want to hear another presentation. I told Matt with a shrug. I promise I'll never make fun of the holidays again. Please don't kill me. He shouted as he crawled away. I let him go. Poor bloke probably thinks it's the end of the world anyway, I told Santa. Oh, but it is the end of the world. For you, that is, Fain. I did my best to try and not be frightened. Here I was standing before a godlike being, and the only thing that I had to defend myself with was a hoagie. A hoagie in my sharp mind. Thankfully, I knew that the old elf was in the brightest bulb, so I decided to try and trick him. Oh, I'm sorry, I think you might have the wrong person. I'm Frank. See, it says on my name badge, I said, showing it to him. Santa narrowed his steely gaze and grabbed the badge, looking at me in confusion. The directions that I got from the Easter Bunny were very specific. He said that you were working here under a human disguise, Santa commented. I did my best to keep it cool. The Easter Bunny had hated me for years. It's a long story. I shouldn't have been surprised that he was helping Santa out, but it still scared me. My next words could mean life or death. Okay, you must be thinking of another person because I'm 100% human. I paused and showed him the food in my mouth. Would a fake human waste a perfectly good sub like this? Santa was tapping his feet trying to decide what to do, and then reluctantly passed my badge back to me. Sorry for the confusion. Have a Merry Christmas, he said in disappointment. You too, a nice costume by the way, I said, taking it and slowly weaving my way through his crowd of zombie toy soldiers. As I was almost at the escalator, my phone buzzed and I froze, realizing that I had left it right by where Santa was standing next to the food truck. He immediately grabbed it and switched on the speakerphone.
Fain,
what the hell is taking so long? Did you stop and get food and eat without me? Isabella asked. I laughed nervously as Santa's evil eyes blazed against me. Sorry, kitty, your precious Fain will not be home for Christmas. Santa cackled as he crushed my cell phone and then ordered his toy soldiers to charge. Immediately, I jumped on the slope of the escalator, sliding down to the bottom floor of the mall and broke into a mad dash for the parking garage. I could hear the swarm behind me, their nutcracker teeth chattering all throughout the mall as I tried to think of what I could do to stop this. Rounding the corner to the parking garage, I huffed and caught my breath, listening for the zombie toys. This is not how I wanted to be dashing through the snow, I shouted. It probably wasn't a good idea to alert them to my location, but I was mad. The chattering grew louder and I knew that they were almost on me, as I started running even faster to get away. I pulled my keys out and opened the back door to my Honda Civic to push aside my other gifts and rev the engine. The zombie toys were almost on me and I shut the doors and started to pull away, their guts splattering across my windshield as I heard Santa getting closer. Dang it, I said as they bit my tire. I wasn't going anywhere fast, so I decided to try and book it on foot. The toy soldiers were soon accompanied by a very feral reindeer as I heard Santa laugh maniacally above me. He was riding in a skeletal sleigh and dropping bombs on the mall parking lot as I rushed to find an exit. I have to admit, I have never really been afraid for my life, even when I was stuck at the DMV that one time. But being pinned down by an army of undead dolls and knowing that they would likely take their time dismantling my body, it made me feel terrified. Santa took his flaming sword from Jessica's nostrils and pointed it toward me. Many last words, you pathetic excuse for a fae, he shouted. I hate to admit that I blubbered like an idiot, so let's embellish this part of the story and say that I went on a 3-day tirade about the nature of food and evil, of the consequences of belief in the duality of man, and the endless cycle that we're all trapped in. Then once I had run out of things to say and the toy soldiers had started nibbling on my fingertips, Santa slammed the flaming sword down toward me and I died. Okay, not really. I was just checking to see if you were paying attention. I thought that I was going to die, but at the last minute, there was a blinding light from the east and a second flaming sword came down and blocked Santa Claus. I crawled backwards toward the exit, not believing my eyes as I saw that it was a golden-winged seraph straight from heaven itself. And it was somebody that I knew. My ex-girlfriend. Lycidas, what the heck are you doing here? I shouted at her as she used all her angelic powers to hold back Santa. What does it look like I'm doing here, saving your skin, you nincompoop? I tried my best to ignore her stifling 18th century English and slowly rose to my feet. What in the heck is going on? I asked her. What part don't you get? Santa's coming to skin your hide or me saving it? Lycidas asked irritably. Honestly, both, I admitted. Look, I only have time to explain one thing, so let's go with what you need to do now. Fain, you have to get your powers back and take out all the evil in Santa's heart, or Christmas is doomed forever. Oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. Wait, my powers back? How do I do that? She was straining against the weight of Santa trying to get to me. He was strong, but thank God she was stronger. No, seriously, thank God. He's her personal trainer, and the dude that stole her from me. Prick. You need to find Tysander. He knows the way, she shouted to me. The sparks between the two swords looked like they were about to start a nuclear explosion. I knew what I had to do, but honestly, I wasn't sure that I had the courage to do it. She told me to run and I knew that I was at least good at that, so I ran outside to the bus stop and told them to take me to my apartment complex. Lycidas had saved me some time to hide from Santa, but honestly, it wasn't very much. As I made my way to our little hole in the wall, I had a heavy decision to make. Run away from this and hope that Santa never found me, or try to get my powers back as a Fae and take down the villainous elf. When I got to the apartment, I had made up my mind, and then I saw Isabella standing there at the foyer, looking pissed because I had forgotten to grab her dinner. "Why did you ignore my calls? You better not have gotten that stupid gift that you were trying to surprise me with," she told me as I hurried into the lobby. "We need to get upstairs and lock all our doors and pack for a trip to Mexico, or maybe Canada. Do you like clubbing seals?" Isabella saw my strange pale expression as we got into the elevator, and immediately her attitude changed. "Oh God, the college recruits found us, didn't they?" Worse than that, I'm afraid," I admitted to her. "I told you to stop eating from that food truck. Those fundamentalists are relentless," she said worriedly. "No, it's Santa Claus, and he's back from the dead," I exclaimed as the door opened and our nosy neighbor Gladys entered the elevator. "Afternoon, Franklin. Izzy. Playing Dungeons and Dragons again, are we?" she said with her nose up in the air. We said nothing until we got in the apartment and Isabella locked the door, studying my face to see if I was lying. "You're serious about the Santa thing, but how is that possible? Didn't we kill him like 2 years ago?" she asked. "Did he get purchased by Disney or something?" I sighed and nodded weakly, figuring that explanation was easier than anything that I could conjure up. As somehow Santa Claus returned. Isabella ate a bite of a Lunchable as she paced our apartment. "Well, this seems like a simple enough solution. You just gotta kill him again, right?" "You're forgetting the part where I'm human now. I need my Fae magic to fight him properly," I told her. "Well, can we buy it on eBay?" she asked. "I still let my parents log in." "No, and it's too dangerous to go and get some anyway. Which is why we're gonna be on the run and change our names and become Canadian citizens. Now start practicing your accent and love of NSYNC," I told her as I grabbed a bag from the closet and stuffed clothes into it. "Nah, I think it makes more sense that we stop Santa for good. I mean, I tried the whole runaway thing, remember? It's cliche at this point," Isabella told me. "Now, Isabella, eh? That doesn't sound like you want it that way, eh? 'Cause I want it that way." "That's Backstreet Boys," she pointed out. "All boy bands look the same. Come on, start packing," I insisted. "Fain, we can't outrun something like Santa Claus. He's like the champion of hide and seek," she said. I slumped on the bed, knowing that she was right. "You really think that I should try to get my Fae magic back?" I asked. "Sure, I mean, how hard could it be?" "Well, basically, I have to go find the Sandman and enter the Land of Dreams, both of which I've only ever heard rumors about," I told her. "We get to meet Tom Sturridge," she squealed like the biggest fangirl ever. "Unfortunately, no. This is the real Sandman, and he's definitely not as friendly as the TV version," I told her as I started to unpack. "Huh. That's a little disappointing," Isabella admitted. "May gets that a lot," I admitted as I grabbed a few key items and added, "We better get going before Santa catches up." Instead of boring you with the details of how we found the Sandman, I think I'm just going to skip forward a few scenes in this story to how I entered the Land of Dreams. It involves pixie sand being injected into my veins and a head clamp that sends 30,000 volts of dream energy into my human body. Now, Fain, keep in mind that when you enter the dream realm, there are a certain number of rules that you need to obey to stay out of harm's way, and Tysander said as he pet his raven. All gloomy goth cosmic beings have ravens. "I'm good with ritual pastas. What are the rules?" I asked. Tysander blinked at me. "I mean, I don't know, mate. I thought you had like a print-off." "Why would I have a print-off? You're the Sandman." "It's not like I keep handbooks lined up and go take tours," he snapped back. "Well, lovely. Well, how about focus on telling me what I have to do to get my powers back?" "You're gonna need to find your shadow self. The part that was taken from your body by the cursed Santa put in you all those years ago. Merge with your shadow self and convince the lonely nightmare to take you back across the street to the land of waking, and you'll be scot-free as a Fae again. Unless, of course, the other Endless decide to hunt you down and destroy your dream soul. In which case, remember the number 42, Tysander remarked. Okay, can you write that down? Nope. I'm pretty sure some of that came from Neo Gaiman, so it's probably a bit more fancy than it should be. The Sandman said as he yawned and told Isabella to relax while we started. A few hours for us will be weeks for him. Do you really want to do that to yourself or him? The Sandman asked. Isabella had just finished popping popcorn. Not exactly how I wanted to spend Christmas, but it beats rewatching Seinfeld, she said, giving me the thumbs up. And remember, what is the plan if Santa shows up while I go full Inception? Shoot him in the balls and run, Isabella said, patting the small Winchester rifle that Sandman had on him for some reason. Look, the guy's a bit nutty, I don't ask questions. I swallowed and I looked at the two of them, promising that I would return with the prize I sought. And then Tysander flipped the switch. I've been on acid trips before, but this takes the cake. You ever seen Inside Out or Alice in Wonderland, the Burton version? This felt like that, except I was watching myself walk along this long corridor of winter globes. Each little snow globe had a different version of It's a Wonderful Life playing. At first, I thought maybe the movie really did have that many adaptations, and then I remembered suddenly where I was. The dreamlands are like an interconnected highway of goop. You can be standing in a museum 1 second and then suddenly whisked away to a big open field the next. None of it made sense, and I honestly wasn't sure if I was going to be able to find the nightmare that I wanted to, given how crazy the place is. Think the back rooms except with candy canes. I could hear jingles as I stepped forward into the next area. A strange snow-covered jungle that reminded me of the North Pole about 10,000 years ago. The jingling got louder and I found myself drawn to a large fir tree, where a naked Krampus was dangling upside down and singling the 12 days of Christmas. Yes, I said singling. It's like jingling and singing combined. Granny Krampus, what are you doing here? The strange vision looked at me and smiled empathetically, pointing towards a row of elves that were chanting for blood. Santa Claus is going to amass an army and destroy Christmas, Fain, and it's all your fault. Hold on a minute now, you're the one that told me to kill him, I told them. Krampus was repeating the same words over and over as the elves began to attack themselves with the sharp end of the candy canes. Their blood mixed together and formed what looked like a huge vanity mirror. If I wasn't already convinced that Burton was directing this dream world, then I definitely was now. The mirror had a different version of myself. He looked buff and strong. The me that maybe I had always wanted to become. Fain, the fearsome Fae. But he also had dark eyes, a dark smile that I'm pretty sure that he was a vegan. It was a vibe that I got from him. Vegans go to a special circle of hell right next to Karen's. The reflection spoke. Do you know who I am? It asked in my voice. I'm hoping you're my shadow self so I can get the heck out of here, I said to it. The mirror sighed. Talk about deflating. I was hoping for a bit of mystical mystery here while you struggled with feelings of existentialism and what could have been, the life you never had. Can we skip to the part where you give me my powers back? I asked. Oh, you still haven't learned. The powers are within you all along. The reflection cackled. I did my best to not roll my eyes in frustration. God dang it. Why did there have to be a moral to the story? I guess we could just battle it out and you pretend you ripped the powers from my cold dead hands. My reflection suggested. That would be so much better, thank you. 2 lightsabers appeared, one for each of us. The duel of the fates begins to play. My shadow pushed me down a flight of stairs and stabbed me straight into the chest. Don't you see you were doomed to fail all along? I blocked his next attack and rolled over toward a crystal lake that suddenly appeared. It was obvious from the moment that we started battling the dream was collapsing. I could hear voices above. It sounded like Isabella screaming. "You hear that? The pathetic human you care about so much is in danger. Don't you want to wake up and rescue her?" The shadow taunted. We fought across the lake, strange Santa-looking sharks swimming under the ice as we pushed toward the edge. I didn't actually know how I had such good swordplay. I only played in theater once when I was young. It was back in the 13th century and it was a mild hit. Romeo and Juliet or something. Very progressive. My shadow kicked me across the lake toward a howling forest of fire monkeys. They were eating and stripping my flesh as I heard Isabella scream louder. "I can't wake, not yet. I have to get my powers back." I shouted to the sky and it cracked like glass. Little mushrooms from a popular video game series that I can't specify or I'll get a copyright strike against me rained down. I grabbed one and ate it and got 10 feet tall. My shadow did the same, morphing into this mecha Gundam robot. We held our blades against each other as a storm shook the entire dream. "I will never let you destroy me, I'm too powerful," the shadow snarled. I was losing. I could feel my feet sinking into the quagmire. Giggity. My body was dissolving. I was going to wake up if I could not defeat this nightmare. I closed my eyes and pushed as hard as I could. Somehow I could keep going. I pinned the shadow down finally and locked eyes with it. "I'm not destroying you, idiot. We are merging into a single soul." The reflection seemed shocked and suddenly the battle was over. He relaxed and stepped up, relinquishing his sword as the dream kept collapsing around us. The music was swelling and getting louder as I felt his power going into my body. "Like I said all along, Fain, the power was inside you this whole time," the reflection said as it faded away. My whole body burst like a solar flare out my butt from a buffet at Taco Bell. I screamed and cried and shook as the dream dissolved. It felt like I was hurtling toward the surface. As I came up for air, I heard the screams turn to silence and I feared the worst. Had Santa already found us? I stood in darkness for a while, waiting for the waking world to return. When it did, I realized that the room that I was in was now sealed up. I couldn't find Tysander or Isabella. I took the headgear off and shouted their names, but for no response. And then I saw a trail of sparkly elf blood. Following the trail led me to a secret door. The room itself had been hidden away as an emergency mechanism, and when I opened it, I saw the Winchester that my human daughter had used for protection was now wrapped snug around Tysander like a snake coil. I hurried to his side, using my newfound Fae strength to push it apart and free him. The Sandman gave me an apologetic shrug. "Isabella insisted that I needed to make sure you were protected. But honestly, I think Claus had other plans anyway," he said, pointing toward a small chalkboard on the right wall. Pinned to the board were elves, their innards sprawled out and designed to write a message from the Fat Man himself. It read, "To whom it may concern, namely Fain the Fae. So, I just found out that you went into the dreamlands and wanted to get your powers back. Bold of you. Perhaps this means that you want to face me at my full strength. In case you weren't already aware, now that it is Christmas Day, I'm back to my old self and can take anyone down, especially you. I could have killed you a few times already, but it's more fun to see you suffer. For that reason, when I came here and I saw you strapped to that silly sand machine, and I heard Ty say that you could be trapped in the dreamlands forever if I shut it down, I thought to myself, nah, that's too easy. I want to kill you myself. But I want it to be slow and painful and full of belly laughs. Yeah, I know how to belly laugh, it's a trademark. So I took your human ward. It wasn't easy. She put up quite a fight. But now that I have her, and if you want to save your little damsel in distress, then you'll have to come to the North Pole. That's where all of this went wrong, and that's where this will all come to an end again. But this time you will be the one to go to hell. Except there's no coming back from you. So come, Fain, let's have a Christmas together one last time. Santa Claus. Oh, and there was a smaller note written in what looked like leftover pixie dust, which by the way is the snot of pixies, and it said, P.S. Scan this QR code for 25% off your Grubhub order and to indicate you'll be at the fight on Christmas Day. Remember, if you don't come, I'll destroy your human child instead. I can't believe this, I said as I examined the scan code. I know, it's an amazing coupon. You better use it before it expires, Ty Sanders said excitedly. I rubbed my eyes tiredly and gave the Sandman a dirty look. Well, it looks like I will need to find a way back up north, and I have less than 24 hours to get there and to save Isabella. The stakes couldn't be higher. I muttered as I tried to think of how I could defeat that fatso. I know, and you heard how his powers are now at full strength. You might not have the power to stop him, Fain. At least not alone anymore, he said. Yeah, I will need help, I realized. Hey, don't look at me, I'm a lover, not a fighter, Ty Sanders said, waving his hands up defensively. I squinted my eyes and looked over at his leftover bottles of pixie snot. You can send messages to people in their dreams, right? Yeah, more or less. It's a bit complicated in the way it works. I don't care. I need you to send a message to someone and to do it now. Time is wasting. Somewhere a Christmas bell chimed and it sent a chill down my spine. Already it was an hour past midnight on this holiday horror. I had to get to the North Pole. I closed my eyes and focused on the strength that I had gotten from the dreams, sprouting wings that would make Tinkerbell jealous, and giving Tysander the message I needed forwarded, and paying the shipping and handling fees I made for the wintry skies. Today, one way or another, Christmas would change forever. As I got closer to the North Pole, I saw a northern light that streamed toward me like a shooting star. I knew immediately it was my ex and that my message into her dream had worked. Lycidas, you came for me, I said as I saw her soft and beautiful eyes. Oh, don't fool yourself, Fain. Your dream told me that a child was in danger, and if I can save this human child, I might finally be promoted to Chief Seraph's secretary, she said as she glanced at my fairy wings. I never really thought you were that type of fae, she commented. There's a lot about me that you don't know, I said dryly. Suddenly the air got warm and both of us slowed down in our flight. Below, the white tundra was suddenly cracking and melting into a boiling pot of burning lava. The ground itself was scorching into a black smoldering crater. Dead trees and debris covered the battlefield. Krampus and the elves must have detected that Santa was coming, and this is the result. I paused and looked up toward the twisting tower where Santa's workshop once stood. It looked like his Christmas magic had transformed it into the Eye of Sauron. Quick, get to the ground before that thing finds us, I shouted. The blazing lights of the tower seemed to almost hear us, and they focused in on her wings. A long laser of rainbow fire shot out, burning her and causing my ex to scream as she began to fall. I narrowed my wings and shot down like a bullet to catch her, grabbing at her hand and cradling her toward me as we both crashed near a large bridge that once covered an icy river. Now there were only reindeer carcasses and melted snowmen. A Christmas nightmare, really. Lycidas gave me thanks and stood up, checking her wing that had been burned. Looks like we'll have to go on foot from here, she said. As long as we can keep him distracted, I think that we can get inside. There's only one giant burning eye, so one of us has to be a scapegoat, I told her as I folded up my wings and tried to sense where my adoptive human child was. Isabella is strapped to a tree near to the central plaza. Santa is trying to emulate what happened last year, I realized. I'll go south and unleash the captured reindeer. They should be loyal to Krampus now. You sneak in from the west, Lycidas told me. It wasn't much of a plan, but it was all that we had and time was running short. There were only 6 hours left before Christmas came to an end. and as if to emphasize the danger, I saw that Santa had made a huge neon countdown clock that screamed how little time was left to save Isabella. Lycidas kept a watch over the roaming security eyeball in the sky and then gave me the signal by running across the field like a little chihuahua. It was kind of cute, to be honest. As the searing Christmas eye tried to kill her, I snuck toward the elf quarters of the citadel. It smelled putrid, like 1,000 reindeers had taken a crap all at once. I noticed many of the worker elves were locked up and already starved to the point where their ribs looked like string cheese. How would Santa have done all this in a single day? I whispered. Isn't it obvious, nephew? A weak voice said near the end of the cages. It was Granny Krampus, and they were also chained up like a wild animal. That fatso had help. I was thinking this day might come, but to have it be now during the holiday rush, it's just not right. Santa needs to be stopped, Krampus explained. I tapped the blade next to me and smiled. Well, that's what I'm here for. Where does he sit? I asked. Santa's waiting for you in the throne room. Be cautious, Fain. There are traps everywhere, they said. Can you help me to save Isabella? I asked as I unchained the goat creature. Sure, just give me the word and we'll come storming in, Krampus said. I whispered the code that I would use and then moved to the next room, feeling a renewed vigor in my body. I could really do this. I was going to stop Santa. But what Krampus said troubled me. Santa had help, but from who? Was it that rabbit again and his colored eggs? The very thought made me want to puke. I needed to find answers, otherwise this Christmas wouldn't be jolly and bright for anyone. Carefully, I moved to the central square. I could hear Santa making a belly laugh. The time was almost up. He was probably expecting that I would try to sneak in, save Isabella, and escape. What he didn't expect was that I'm not the same Fae that he once knew. Santa Claus, I've come to bargain, I shouted as I entered the arena. I spotted my human child chained to the tree monster that would soon sprout to life and gave her a soft smile of reassurance. She looked more pissed off than worried. Hey Fain, I just found out you got that stupid cheapo gift from Hot Topic, just like I explicitly said not to, she muttered. Can we discuss this maybe another time? I said as Santa got off his throne of ice. Well, I was wondering when you would show up. So you're ready to get this over with, nephew? Going toe to toe. I wanted to give you a chance first to stop this and make things right. The real Santa is not a monster and wouldn't have done this to the North Pole or all the elves. This is your family. This revenge nonsense has gone too far. I told him as I took out my blade. Take this weapon and pierce your blubber butt with it so that we can all have a good Christmas again, I shouted. Santa stroked his beard thoughtfully as fresh ash and snow began to fall, and then he walked toward me and lowered his fat self to take the blade. I gave it to him willingly, and then he slashed it across my chest and shoved me backwards, my whole body writhing with pain as I hit a stack of wrapped presents. Oh, I was a goody-goody for thousands of years and am starting to enjoy being evil. I think I will decline your offer and turn this Christmas into the naughtiest yet. I wiped blood off my lips and stood up, turning toward the auditorium. Fine, have it your way. May all your Christmases be as dark as your heart. Happy holidays and screw you, I shouted out. At the same time, elves and reindeer led by Krampus came pouring in to attack Santa. The unexpected attack surprised him, and I rushed for the blade as he tried to ward off wave after wave. This is treason, betrayal. I am Christmas, I am Santa. From above, I saw Lycidas also took the cue and dropped several snow bombs at the fat man. Krampus was almost where Isabella was located and grabbed at her chains to free her. We were so close. And then we heard the rumbling of the tree. It was moving and getting ready to devour her alive. Don't you see that my role is to make sure Christmas is on schedule? This wickedness is necessary for a bright and brilliant Christmas day. Santa shouted as he cut down more elves. Their bodies were slain around his red suit, like lilies in a field. I grabbed at the blade and pulled it from his hands, looking to see if Isabella was safe. For a second I panicked, unable to find her, and in that instant, Santa pinned me down with the blade. "You think you can purge the darkness from me, boy? There's nothing left. I'm a king of sinful sots, my brain is full of spiders. I'm as charming as an eel. I have nothing left except to destroy you, Fain. Then I will be the crooked, jerky jockey that everybody despises." He raised the blade high to stake me like a vampire. But then from behind, before he could slam it down, I saw a small heroine grab at the handle, forcing him to be distracted. Isabella. The blade got caught in Santa's beard and Isabella swung around to ram it in his throat. "I got 3 words for you, Claus. Stink." She jammed the blade in a little. "Stank." She jammed it in a little further. "Stunk." As she finished the limerick, all kinds of things happened at once. Santa began to flail on the ground, all the anger and rage hurtling into the sky to form a big angry cloud. Like a cranky old man that couldn't be bothered, the bitterness in his heart went straight toward the monster tree. The two struck and an earthquake happened. Blinding light covered the Christmas square and the bell for the end of the night came. It was time for Santa to leave and deliver toys, if it had been on schedule. Instead, all of us looked on in awe and confusion. His body turned to pure snow. The square got silent. "Is that it? Did we win?" an elf asked. A few stray snowflakes began to fall and then the typical holiday tunes began to play. They fell straight on the fat statue and I saw Santa slowly returning to life. Except now he had a soft smile in his face, a jolly grin. He belly laughed and I actually felt happiness in my soul. "Ho ho ho, what in blazes is going on around here? I feel like I just had a very bad acid trip." And that about sums it up. My ex-angel said as she approached Claus and checked his wound where the sword had dislodged itself. "It looks like you are now a benevolent entity, just the way that you were meant to be," she said excitedly. The entire square cheered and chanted my name. "Fain, my boy, you really are a legend, having saved Christmas twice. That's more than most holiday specials can say. You deserve a reward," Santa said as he pointed to his magical gift bag. "Name the item and it'll be yours." I turned to everyone excitedly, not sure what to even ask for. But then I knew. Isabella's the one that deserves a gift. She's the real hero here, and I kinda messed up on her initial gift anyway. I said, offering the magical bag to her. "How does that work anyway? Does my arm get chewed off when I reach in?" she asked, peering into the bottomless bag. "Wish for what you want the most, reach in and grab it. Batteries not included," Krampus told her. Isabella stuck her tongue out to think and then did just as we had instructed, pulling out an awesome grunge t-shirt from Spencer's. "Oh ho ho, you really are a fine young lady," Santa said as he climbed into a sleigh. It was almost crazy to imagine the holidays were now safe again and we could go home. I saw Isabella look a little worried though. "I don't know if going back to human life is a good idea now that you have real magical powers. Our rental agreement doesn't cover that," she pointed out. "And plus, we don't know what happened to Santa's cohort. That rascally rabbit," Krampus mentioned. I mentally cussed and realized that the Easter Bunny had disappeared before anybody could find out what his goal was, and then turned to Santa and asked if Isabella and I could stay here. "We can earn a living by keeping the tree fed and giving it some bad kids to eat. The kinds that are bullies and punks," Isabella told him. Santa laughed again. "I think you'll find its appetite has changed since I had a turn of heart. But you can remain here at the North Pole all you want. I'm sure we need a few more bodyguards to protect our elf treasures and feed the reindeer and train the soldier penguins," he said. It sounds like a Christmas ending, but wait, there's more. Lycidas got that cushy job upstairs and even agreed to be my friend again, possibly for a future new relationship. And Isabella managed to skip her classes and graduate from middle school early. So she is now helping Krampus to create a more kid-friendly website for the North Pole. One for the 21st century, she says. We all had Christmas dinner that night in hell, and Wormwood even showed up to apologize and cut the turkey. He looked like a mangled mess, but honestly, we love his goofy butt anyway. At the last minute, Lucy returned from her holiday trip and saw all of us reviewing slides from the escapade that I had in the dream world. "Don't tell me you had a Christmas nightmare without me," she asked in disappointment. Isabella waved the DVD copy up excitedly. "We got it on Blu-ray for you. Better watch out, Fain, or she'll franchise you," Lycidas told me. I gave her a hug and ate my hoagie, still with no cheese. I guess even crazy Christmas acid trips can't cure lactose intolerance.